you want to see?
No,
No,
you can't.
I can't. Accomplish meats.
Speaking of meats, do you know that Tesla only ate boiled food?
I did not know that.
Yeah. He had a fear of getting sick again, so all his food was boiled.
He was Serbo-Croat, by the way.
Yeah. We just call it Austro-Hungarian Empire-ish.
We learned that up.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hey. Welcome to the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
Over there on the controls is J-Lo. And today, we're talking about someone who has influenced history more than you'll ever know. Because most people don't know. Because that's just how they want it, isn't it?
Maybe.
Oh, definitely.
Or maybe he's got so much press that he's just impressive.
Impressive press.
Yeah.
Talking about a man by the name of Nikola Tesla.
Yes, we are. Anyways.
Did you hear my stomach make that noise after I said
I thought it was that.
Okay. Is there a cat in here?
Weird.
Hello.
We're having technical difficulties. So let me take you back in time to a much more shitty time. A time where Croatians and Serbians were also Austrians and not. On July 10th, 1856, Nikola Tesla was born in a small village to a father that was a priest.
You sound like the baseball documentary by what's his names?
And a mother who was an inventor. And not just any inventor, the mother of the best inventor ever.
The mother of all inventions.
Yeah.
I mean inventors.
Yeah, the mother lode.
Necessity is the mother of
Invention.
Yes.
But she invented, with some help from a guy and the universe,
Out of necessity.
one Nikola Tesla. And you might be thinking, oh, yeah, well, didn't he do like the death ray stuff and all that? We're getting there. All right?
Wrong.
That's
a big misnomer about him.
Hold your horses.
He would never, ever, 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 never would attach his name to a quote unquote death ray. He was a pacifist through and through.
Right.
He
much like hunters or conservationists.
He abhorred war. War he abhorred.
He inherited that trait from his dad.
Yes.
Not genetically, but just listening to his dad talk about how terrible war was.
Yeah. His father was a Eastern Orthodox priest, exactly the same as his grandfather as well. So he came from a line of peaceniks, I guess you could say.
So his accomplishments were many, including up to and including 300 patents, because the name of the game in today's episode is Collect the Patents.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something that really helped him and hindered him throughout his entire life.
Like Patent Pac-Man.
Yeah. Copy that and mark it and try to use that later. Shoot forward into the future now that we've left 1856 and all that terrible shit going on there. To 1884. Tesla was, he was a great student. He learned really well. He had an eidetic memory, right?
I believe it's eidetic.
Eidetic? Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, like me, Mike's going to explain what it means.
A pornographic memory?
I think so.
No, it just means you're very good at remembering details, numbers. Just
Rain Man.
A lot like what the freakish abilities displayed by one Sherlock Holmes, I guess you could say.
J-Lo either heard something very offensive or is unsure about something.
Wasn't me.
I thought that an eidetic memory was almost the same as they remember everything they see.
Yeah. Details. Oh, yeah. Like, yeah.
We're not professionals. But we are.
I don't know if everything, but yeah, I would say close to it, at least.
Tesla was really great in school because of this, and he also was human and had a few bad habits. He actually dropped out of school due to his gambling addiction and personal issues that we're not allowed to talk about anymore because of the NDAs he had to sign.
He also suffered from cholera for quite a long time. I almost want to, man, I can't remember. I know it was a long time. I want to say like more than 9 months, which made him a lifelong germaphobe as well. So that's something that came into play in building his character as well later on.
So one thing that he did retain from university was his love for electricity, physics. He watched a demonstration from one of his professors. So as a kid, he watched his brother die in a horse racing accident, or at least a equestrian accident, and it fucked him up for the rest of his life because it must have been one horrible horse wreck.
Yeah.
That's all they had to travel on back then.
Poor old Dane Tesla, he got Christopher Reeved.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough.
Superman can't walk. Incredible Hulk got the gout. Aquaman drowned in the tub.
He had a terrible limp and he turned green.
Hulk turned green.
I do remember he saw his teacher do a demonstration with electricity. And after that was like, oh my God, this is the wave of the future.
This is the future.
Yeah. Like he was endlessly amazed by it. Another odd thing about Tesla is that when he got later on in life, I don't know if this happened immediately when he started getting into his studies into electricity or whatnot, but he constantly referred to these energies as cosmic energies. He straight up meant it too. He wasn't talking about
orgone energy,
but kind of in a way he was saying that like this is energy that permeates everything. Cosmic energy, it's everywhere. It's all around us. And this is what he was talking about. This is what he meant with, yeah. So,
man. After he drops out of college, he goes and gets a job working for the Edison Continental Company, France, Paris edition. His boss saw how well he worked with all the circuits and wiring and how quickly he could repair stuff and install this stuff. And because you got to remember at the time, they were retrofitting all these buildings to have power. The rate at which he worked and how successful he was to map out all of the electric circuit boards and junction boxes, all that stuff. He's like, man, you're really gifted, man. I think I'm going to put in for a promotion for you to go work in the U.S. For the U.S. company. Within 6 months, he got the promotion to go to New York and work for Edison Machinist Company.
Lucky him.
Yeah, he got there, started making some good money and making headway. And Edison had come to take a visit to the shop and look around. He said, man, this guy's great. This dude is the fastest and he knows the most. He's got to be probably the most well adept at this pioneering technology. And
I'm going to have to do something about that.
I'm going to have to give this guy a raise. And so they actually had a really good friendship starting out. They were best buds. They were like Tesla and Edison at first, or Ford and Edison. They were just really cool together.
Tesla and Edison's Excellent Adventures.
Yeah, exactly. They end up having a discussion, a scientific, healthy debate about alternating current and direct current. And this is where everybody knows the story. AC/DC was formed right then and there. Yeah. And Bon Scott died from an electrical overdose.
And it was a highway to hell from that point.
Just not looking good.
Sorry, it's just too easy to do the AC/DC fucking puns. It's, they're right there. It's low-hanging fruit.
So
we're not going to take it.
Tesla obviously thought, AC is the future because, man, it's just easier. And
it should have been.
Yeah, and Edison was saying that DC is the wave of the future, but Edison also owned all the patents, there's that word again,
right,
to direct current. Now, if you actually ran direct current in New York City to every apartment building, every unit, there's not enough copper on the planet. You wouldn't even be able to run New York on that.
Well, yeah, and Tesla was a utopian. So in his mind, AC is right because it's gonna provide free energy for the world. Whereas
it's safe, it's efficient.
Yeah. And whereas in Edison's mind, DC is right because that's gonna make me the most fucking money.
I'm not in this business to give shit away.
Yeah, to make happy unicorn farts in the sky.
Roll up, Tesla.
I'm not an idealist. I'm a businessman.
So about 6 months after that conversation, Tesla said, hey, you know what, Tommy boy, get fucked. I'm out of here. And he left, and he tried to go start his own company, and which he called it, you guessed it, Tesla.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Edison was appearing in fucking rap videos with bitches surrounding him and fucking throwing money around and shit.
And three-piece suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called himself the Wizard of
Winlow.
Winlow?
Was it Winlow? Menlo
Menlo.
Park. The Wizard
Wizard
of
of
Menlo
Menlo
Park.
Park. Yeah, that was his rap name.
Yeah. The Wiz. The company didn't really work out too well. He had created an AC motor that would an induction motor or whatever to get the AC current started, and a lot of guys were like, "Oh wow, this is great," and he ended up losing his investors, and then the company went belly up. That motherfucker, the man who pioneered AC, had to work digging ditches to make ends meet.
Somebody's got to do it.
I was retrofitting Paris with lights, and now I'm digging a goddamn ditch next to Baron von Munchausen and some other fuck. Like, man, I gotta get my degree from DeVry so I can get up out of this.
You know, Paris is called the City of Lights now, and it's fucking odd that no one is like, hey, this is also tangentially the city of Tesla.
Well,
maybe they should.
the French have a way of not giving credit to people that deserve credit for making France a better place.
Oh, yeah? Are you about to pull out the cheese-eating surrender monkey card?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
They did that on their own.
We're sorry, France. We love you. The delusions of grandeur that they're listening to us. Okay.
I feel like I just jumped over a bunch of shit too, man.
Good. You didn't step in it.
Okay, so the fallout, right? Not great. Edison owned all the patents for direct current. We must invent for profit.
Yeah, didn't Edison say to Tesla, like, if you can update
If you can
X amount of my inventions.
if you can update some of these obsolescent devices, I will give you $50,000. And it was 24
Right.
devices.
Yeah.
And Tesla, being maybe high functioning autistic, I don't know.
Definitely OCD.
Yeah, he took
Maybe he might have suffered seizures as well.
the Prilosec challenge and upgraded all 24 obsolete devices.
He had visionary experiences, we'll say that for now.
And then Edison refused to pay him the $50K. And he said, "Oh,
Man, he could have, and he could have at least paid him the 50,000 and been like, yeah, dumbass, because I'm still going to make X amount of fucking money off of every fucking invention that you just, upgraded with 2 Ds for a double dose of pimpin'.
he said it was just a goof." And that's what broke the fucking camel's back right there.
Yeah.
Was
I'm going
the
to walk into a
50,000.
liquor store with a gun and fucking steal the fucking money from the register.
It was a goof.
And as soon as I walk out, and you're like, don't worry, buddy, this is just a goof. Just a goof. Don't tell anyone or I'll come back and I'll fucking goof you in the face with this fucking... I will goof your wife and fucking kids if you fucking say anything.
Oh, that's great. That's hilarious. Tesla Electric Company, after the ditch digging expedition he decided that he needed to do for money, Tesla Electric Company started in 1887 after he had updated his AC motors, which apparently caught the eye of a lot of people because them fuckers were selling like hotcakes. This AC motor was gaining some traction, and it caught the eye of another guy in electronics or electric engines of the day, a little fella named Westinghouse. And if you've ever purchased one of their very wonderful TVs, they're one of the oldest companies in regards to electronics and any kind of electric device. Westinghouse said, man, this guy's got it going on. We need to get him to work for us. And so he set up a meeting to get him to come work for him. I will give you whatever slush fund you need. Just start fucking spamming out as much as you can, dude. We will get this. Well, as he started making all these updated versions of his AC motors, they actually got the bid in the 1894 Exposition Fair.
World Fair?
Not World's Fair. Some kind of
okay.
Exposition Fair.
I got you.
They outbid Edison Electric, DBA, Edison, Cocksmokers, GE.
When you get to be that age, you got to do DVDA.
Yeah, you got to do DBA. Tesla had actually made his own light bulbs, right? The light bulb you think of now, it's the screw in and the filament and all that. You think of the Edison bulb, which is very popular, but Tesla made vacuum sealed bulbs that had a cork and just the conduit run through it. And just like then and today, they're like, you can't just put titanium in the filament. It'll never go out. Then no one's ever going to buy another light bulb unless we break into their house and smash up the joint.
Man, okay, yeah, I've heard has to do with the Phoebus cartel. Have you ever heard of them?
Phoebus?
Yeah, that was the name of a very huge light bulb manufacturing company back in the day. And they got together with all the smaller manufacturers. And this is like the first, at least that we know in history, like planned obsolescence. It's this is like the first known historical planned obsolescence, because like the original meaning of cartel is a business interest, basically. And all these dudes got together and were like, if we don't program failure into our fucking product, then we're not going to sell more product, obviously. So, yeah.
Then we're going to have to encourage people to buy more fucking lamps.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, this is like the first, this ties right into like one of the first well-known business conspiracies in America.
And so, see, they said, no, son, we're not going to just make them buy light bulbs. We're going to make them buy light bulbs and lamps. Like the bull and the younger bull.
Yeah.
We'll run down the mountain and make them buy light bulbs and lamps.
We're not gonna cure the darkness. We're just gonna remedy it here and there
anyways,
for a while.
Back to the exposition. So that made Edison very upset and look like a punk bitch. And so, you know, he's been over here making rap videos and stuff and just doing his thing with General Electric / Edison Company. And everyone that went to that exposition thought this was the coolest thing ever, because all this is being powered by a very relatively smaller motor and all this than it would take for direct current. So then enter the DC-AC wars and the war of the currents. Yeah. Currently, they were having a hard time gaining any traction on the DC side because, just like in the comic universe, DC was struggling. So what'd they do? They undermined the AC current as best they could. Thomas Edison's company was paying a nickel to a quarter, depending on how big the animal was that you brought to the electric fryer. And then they would film them electrocuting cats, dogs, turtles, then the most infamous one, Topsy, a fucking elephant.
They at least eat these fucking things afterwards?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
The autopsy revealed that Topsy was pregnant at the time.
Oh.
No, that's probably not true.
That's sad.
The cats and dogs probably exploded. Yeah, so
that's sad.
Even after the War of the Currents was over, Edison, the sadistic fuck, continued to electrocute small animals on pans powered by alternating current.
You know what's weird? What if these were like secret animal sacrifices? He was like sacrificing these animals to his dark electric gods. Wouldn't that be fucked up?
The voices in his head just told him.
Yeah, fucking something like that. Yeah, man. Must access the power.
When you gain that much traction for your AC motors and the fame he got from the alternating current, you're gonna make friends aside from Westinghouse, J.P. Morgan, and a little less friendly rivalry with Edison.
Fucking troll.
Dick.
If you haven't seen pictures of this guy, look it up. I swear he's wearing a fake nose. It's like a disguise.
Yeah.
What did you say the other day? It's like, I'm not saying he's Uncle Scrooge, but he probably is Uncle Scrooge.
This is the part here where I'm trying to attest to how great a person Tesla was as just a person, as a friend to someone. After that fair, Westinghouse fell on hard times. The company fell on hard times, and they weren't going to be able to pay him his royalties. So Tesla was going to get probably, I think it was like the equivalent of like $300,000 for his royalties on these motors and on
in today's money.
And back then,
oh, okay,
big money.
Okay.
It's like equivalent to like $6 million now. Like he was slated to make a shitload of money, right?
That's some royalties, all right.
And like as long as they manufactured them, they were going to have to give him like a quarter or a ding or whatever, Yeah. Well, if they paid him his royalties, Westinghouse would go bankrupt. So he just ripped up the contract and said, "You don't have to fucking pay those to me anymore. Don't worry, but we'll call it even. All right, you help me get my shit up off the ground. This is me paying you back." He's like, "Oh, dude, really?" He's like, "Yeah, bro, absolutely." Probably shouldn't have done that. Because what Tesla didn't understand was, even though you may disagree fundamentally with Edison, you kind of need that money to fund other research, or at least, feed yourself. And Tesla had no problems getting backers and benefactors and, anyone that he could get to invest. They're more than happy to do so. Case in point, J.P. Morgan, the Mr. Curmudgeon of American history. J.P. Morgan started backing him for all kinds of little stuff, and he gave him enough money to keep going, and he started coming up with a lot of cool shit. The concepts that Tesla doesn't get enough credit for. He was the guy that said, if you just blast concentrated radio waves out in the ocean, you'll find ships, and then we can just put it on a fluorescent screen. That's radar. That was in 1912, well before it was invented in the 40s. And then remote control. He pioneered remote control. When he decided that he'd finally found a way to make remote control feasible, he made a remote control boat and put it on display at Madison Square Garden. And people were so amazed by what this could do, they thought, he must be telepathic. Oh, no, man, there's a monkey down inside that thing operating that motherfucker. and like they couldn't, he's like, no, there's like a guy underwater like pushing this thing around.
It was always a monkey back then.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Everything had to be a monkey.
He's also credited with 17 patents that were used to create the radio. He's also not given credit for his work on X-rays. He was the first guy to publicly say, yeah, these are X-rays, and they're fucking dangerous. Take that, Mary Curry. Bitch. Why does she get a street and he doesn't?
Hey, man, it's the 20s, and ladies can do stuff now.
Suffragettes. Wait,
Yeah.
How do they say it?
Suffragette?
Susan B. Anthony and the Suffragettes. I can't even say the word. Suffragettes. Suffragette. Yeah, Susan B. Anthony's band
Would you like to sign this petition to? Would
and the Suffragettes.
you like to sign this petition to end women's suffrage? You know how many women signed that?
A lot. And then his other claim to fame here was work in wireless communications. He actually was the first guy to posit the idea that data could be transferred. Granted, he thought radio waves would be the way to do it, but radio waves only hold so much information. Like our voices can go over on radio, but you're not really going to have a great job getting a full picture. But he thought that maybe if you up the ante on the energy generation, you could move text, sound, images, banking transactions, all kinds of shit.
Yeah. Way ahead of his time.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, is he a visionary if he already knew that it was going to be there? I mean, like, that's the thing about science, right? The answer's
Well,
always there. It's already there. It's just we don't know the questions to ask to make it happen.
We will get into that. He may have a bit of a leg up on the competition, so to speak.
And so J.P. Morgan hooked him up with money to make the Wardenclyffe Tower.
Yes, I believe that was the one in Manhattan or Long Island.
Yeah. So that's where they became good buds, because this whole concept of moving information of all shapes and sizes and whatnot interested J.P. Morgan, because he thought there's got to be a way we can make money off that. He's like, oh yeah, well, I want it to be a source of free energy for people.
Yeah, I believe this is also around the time the quote-unquote infamous death ray, or at least the idea came into being, although he never called it a death ray. He called it a teleforce ray, and it was actually meant to be used as a guard, basically, an earlier precursor to the Star Wars Defense Initiative kind of thing. And it was basically just meant to act as a force field or a dome of sorts made of energy that would intercept missiles, etc., and stop them from attacking whoever owned said teleforce ray.
He had a promotional aspect he wanted to use that building for. It was the expedition to the North Pole. He said he would light up the sky in order to guide the expedition. There's several videos out there on YouTube about it. I'm sure we're not the first people to talk about it, but you can make a direct line over the base camp in Greenland where that expedition started, and the end result is a little place called Tunguska.
Uh-oh. Yeah. And that's where supposedly, allegedly, quite possibly, there was a test run on this Teleforce ray that was, responsible for the Tunguska blast. But that's still up in the air. There are several theories as to what could have happened there. It could have been a underground methane explosion. They say it could have been, something like a meteorite or whatever.
Or even a meteor shower.
Yeah. So not quite sure on that one. Still up in the air. But the timing is odd. It's very coincidental.
Yeah. And meanwhile, back on Long Island, imagine the scene from Ghostbusters 2 when Dan Aykroyd's like, Dickless over here. And they got the EPA in there and he's all freaking out. But
that was Bill Murray, I believe, actually.
No. Dan Aykroyd said he called him Dickless. Is it true what this man says? Yes, sir. It's true. This man has no dick.
Has no dick.
But no, not the EPA or anything. He was just worried. I mean, I'd be worried too if I accidentally may have possibly
annihilated a vast swath of
nature.
Fucking nature.
Just vaporized the shit out of the entire Bambi cast and crew. Oh, my bad. It's all right. They were all communists anyways.
I felt the earth shake underneath my feet.
Oh, shite.
And I started disco dancing.
He got funding to manufacture this building, and it wasn't enough. J.P. Morgan only gave him, I think it was like $250,000 in seed money. But more realistically speaking, it probably would have cost several $1 million to build the structure the way he would want it to.
In today's money or back then?
Back then. At least $1 million. At the time of construction, he had actually lost funding, and there was a small recession, enough to double the price of lumber and iron raw materials, and then labor costs went up too. So any seed money he had, it just evaporated. He defaulted on that property, and someone ended up coming in there and clearing out the land and
scooping it out from under him,
developing it for, I think, houses. And that's where he pretty much had his psychotic break. And he's like, I just want to do good, and everybody wants to take my good stuff and turn it into money.
Fuck me and the world.
Yeah. Why does everyone want so bad to shit in my mouth and tell me they bought me dinner? It's a Serbian
That's
phrase.
what happens. Every person through history who comes out and is like, hey, fucking, can't we all get along, and can't we have a perfect utopia?
Gunshot.
Usually, yeah, or fucking, nailed to a board or whatever. I think this marks about the time where the man who was already a bit woo-wee-woo went full fucking force with the woo-woo.
Woo!
Yeah. We're talking like tangy barbecue flavor woo. Tesla was already very obviously like OCD through most of his life. He had, strange fears and aversions. Like he couldn't look at pearls, for one example. Anything like round or spherical and shiny, which fucking culminated specifically in women's pearl earrings and like necklaces and shit, drove him fucking crazy. They made him like actually nauseous, sick to his stomach. In his later life, he would also form a somewhat sweet kind of, I don't know, sort of like Disney-esque romance with a pigeon. It would almost be inappropriate, except that Tesla was like an old man by this point. So it didn't have the quite, he was just an old sweet man by this point who loved to feed pigeons. And like, there was one pigeon who came around all the time, this white pigeon, and that he would think of the pigeon and it would just show up. He felt like they had a psychic bond basically. And even to the very end of this pigeon's life, it showed up and was, I'm going to die. And it was actually, from the story, sounds like a sweet moment. He was just like, oh, my pigeon friend, and held it while it died, and kind of sad and sweet. I don't know. Bittersweet, I guess you would call it.
He loved that pigeon so much that he actually had the chef at the New Yorker hotel mix up a special batch of bird seed.
That's right.
Just for that bird. And he said, oh, don't worry, friend. This bird seed is good. We're going to sell this commercially. And the chef had reportedly told reporters after Tesla died that, I think he was going crazy because this guy was like all into AC motors, and now suddenly he's saying we're going to make millions of dollars off of bird seed.
Yeah, he pivoted pretty hard there. Switch gears into another mode of business pretty quickly there.
Got to keep with the times, Mike.
Yeah. If that wasn't enough, I mean, that was definitely more towards the very, very end of his life. But when we're talking the very end of his career, where his career died, it probably closer to around the time that he started making claims that he was in communication with the planets Mars and or Venus. It depends on which source you check. There's, one says one says one thing, one says the other. But basically, he was receiving signals from the planet that read 1, 2, 3. If we can get a sample later, they sound a little something like this.
And for those of you that are really interested in what Venus sounds like, we also have that.
Yeah.
It's free use because it's Soviet satellite that landed on the planet.
Yeah, this is the actual sound of Venus.
Wasn't that special?
This was around the time that, because he was making these communications, and this also feeds into sort of what we've been hinting at throughout this particular series of podcasts, feeds into what we're going to get into later as well. But the man had visionary experiences. Not only did he suffer from OCD, that's the most evident ailment that the man suffered from, and germophobia to a great degree, which I mean, goes hand in hand with OCD. But because of that cholera bit earlier in life, that strongly affected him throughout his life. He was very germophobic, bit of an anti-Semite, but that seemed to be something of the times that he was from. It's just, I don't know. I can't find, anyone from back in those days who didn't have some offhand hot sports opinion about our Hebraic brothers and sisters. But yeah, other than that, people started using, he published, a magazine published a interview that they did with Tesla about speaking with other planets. And some people believe that this is where his business opponents started utilizing these sort of things, saying like, this man is demented out of his fucking mind, basically. But at the same time, it's also believed that this is where he came up with a lot more of his, lesser known ideas. And he was subject to visionary experiences, which is why some doctors, looking back in retrospect, believe that he may have suffered from something akin to temporal lobe seizures, which is always, seizures have always been considered the sacred disease because you're touched by the gods or whatever. Like you see things, you have visions, etc. And he was thought to basically see visions of fully formed inventions in his head and sort of like connected them from A to B. Like this is already something that exists in the future. Like maybe he had like precognitive skills. And if you look into temporal lobe epilepsy and like the psychological research done on it, it does have numerous various connections to psychic phenomena like precognitive skills, etc., things like that. So who knows, man? That's where we said he might have had a leg up on the competition. He might have been seeing things in the future and was sort of connecting A to B to C. Another weird thing about this gentleman that sort of feeds into today, he had an idea for what were basically not drones, but sort of electrogravitic airships that were fueled by towers, like cell tower type devices that were planted around cities, which could fuel these ships around the cities and farther outward. And they look remarkably like the Tic Tac UFOs that we've seen in the last few years. He's also known to have had a deep friendship with a fellow by the name of Swami Vivekananda, I believe is how you say it.
I was way off.
Yeah. Who, he was big into Hindu mythology and folklore and philosophy. And they would talk and sit up hours and talk about Buddhism and Hinduism, etc. And they would talk about the Vimanas, which were the ancient UFOs from the Mahabharata. And sort of, I think some of this stuff might have fueled Tesla's imagination a little bit. So, but this is all mostly speculation on my part. One thing that we do know for sure about Tesla is he had a reoccurring obsession with the numbers 3, 6, and 9. And he said that if you paid attention to vibration, frequency, and rhythm, you would understand the universe. And basically, he broke 3, 6, and 9 down as representations of these three universal forces. And just to give a few examples.
369 Mafia.
Yeah. He was the founder. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, this gets into golden ratio, Fibonacci sequences, things that I'm not quite totally copacetic with. I'm not a big math person, but I do understand the concept of digital roots. And when you break down the digital roots of all these certain numbers, like say, for example, a digital root is of 21, 2 plus 1 is 3. That's like how you come up with a digital root of every number. So, for example, the speed of light, 186,282. You add all those numbers together, 9. Diameter of the sun, 864,000 miles. Add it all together, 9. Diameter of the moon, 2,160 miles. Add it all together, 9. Diameter of Earth, 7,920 miles. Add it all together, 9. That's space. In time, you've got seconds in 1 hour, 3,600. Add it together, 9. Seconds in a day, 86,400. Add it all together, 9. And that goes on for like seconds in a week, seconds in a month, seconds in a year, minutes in a day, minutes in a week, minutes in a month, minutes in a year, and so on. Not only that, but it takes 9 months to make a baby. If you look at the symbol, which is thought to be not only the frequency of the planet Earth, but creation and man as well, it looks like a 369. Like he saw these patterns everywhere. If this doesn't play into the same kind of obsessive compulsive numerology games that these people kind of play sometimes.
It sounds very Downer-esque a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Just less,
very much.
Less narcissistic.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't figure into a conspiracy necessarily, but he's looking at the architecture of reality. It's like, it all makes sense, man. Oh, I got it all figured out.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful mind. But
yeah,
like,
he's seeing an order to the universe up and beyond everyday life. He's seeing behind it all. Like J-Lo said, it does pertain to music. It's like the music of the spheres, creation, and fucking just the order behind everything. So he was very much into that and knew that if you were into it, if you could immerse yourself in these numbers and see them everywhere, apply them to your daily life and beyond, you'd start understanding the secrets of the universe. By the way, I got that information via a YouTube channel called Engineering Made Easy. Oh, boy. We'll just roll with that. I mean, it certainly made it easier for me, but oof. Man,
yeah, now that they narrowed it down. Easier.
What does that say? Mike drifts off? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At this point, we can get to the point to where he's an old, career-destroyed, age-addled man.
Well, not to his own, not completely on his own. Other people helped him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you don't have stress from nobody. Somebody's got to give it to you.
Yeah.
So, remember we said earlier in the show that he ripped up his contract for his royalties with Westinghouse, right?
Yeah.
So Westinghouse Company found out his living condition and that he was broke. So they paid the rent on his hotel room at the New Yorker. And they even gave him a stipend for food and all that stuff. That was their way of just trying to pay him back for keeping the company afloat.
All the good times.
It would have been great if they had been like, here's your royalties back. That would have been great too. But, you know, they're not going to.
That'd be a bit much.
Yeah. That'd be paying the paper back too much.
Paying in the paperback?
Paying it back. On January 7th, 1943, in New York, United States, he was found deceased. He did not have a belt around his neck and an orange in his mouth. We know that much.
No, but that will come into play later as well.
It took about 2 days for his nephew, his only closest relative next to kin, I guess, to get down there. The first thing he said was, there's stuff missing.
Yeah, and according to an article on January 9th, we totally lost the source on this article, but it doesn't really matter. It's just general information, so here you go. On January 9th, 1943, 2 days after Nikola Tesla died, destitute in a New York City hotel. The FBI called MIT professor and esteemed electrical engineer John G. Trump to determine if any of the belongings of the inventor's estate, which included a purported weapon of mass destruction Tesla called the Death Ray, misnomer, would be dangerous if they fell into enemy hands. And 3 days after the investigation, Trump, in fact the late uncle of Donald J. Trump, that's right, determined here that there was no risk. It turned out that Tesla never actually made his Death Ray. Still, the mystery and exaggerated claims, along with the soaring success and failures associated with Tesla, an eccentric Serbian-American polymath futurist, god damn, that's an awesome title, continue to be played out today on a scale that could only have imagined. That two high-profile electric vehicle companies, one named after the inventor's last name, Tesla, headed up by Elon Musk, very much a fuckboy fanboy intellectual descendant of the inventor, my own editorializing.
No, this is great. This is awesome.
Very much an intellectual descendant of the inventor, and another Nikola after his first name, would both be creating huge waves and headlines, though for very different reasons 80 years later seems to be beyond. Yet for those who believe in the man and his vision, maybe it isn't so surprising. It's also the case that Tesla, brash and successful, and Nikola, speculative and troubled, both reflects facets of their namesake. It's perhaps poetic that Tesla's Musk sometimes spars with and sometimes emulates Professor Trump's nephew, the President of the United States. That's the last part we could have done without, probably.
Maybe a little bit. You know, when
I still find it odd that Donald Trump had a MIT professor, but we're not going to go into that either.
well, you know, there's one in every family, Mike.
Yeah, that's the whole rabbit hole.
You know, one other thing
Not
that
enough editorializing for the day.
the article missed out on was the Office of Alien Property.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Wanted you to mention this.
Since it was in the heat of the World War II, or the sequel, as we called it back then. In 43, the Soviets were already pushing back the Nazis back to the goddamn Rhine. They were pushing them out of Russian territory. They were so worried that these rumors about a death ray and that this is an invisible Chinese wall and all this. They heard all these rumors, you know, and
Yeah, that was a phrase thrown around, yes.
and so we better get in there and make sure there's nothing that the Nazis and the Soviets can't get to. We got to be the first. And I mean, if his corpse could have solved some other dire scientific emergency in that time, they probably would have taken the corpse too.
That'd be a pretty awesome movie.
Yeah.
Tesla's Ghost. Starring
It's just, no, it's just Weekend at Tesla's.
David Dastmalchian.
Like, oh yeah, no, the machine's over here.
They just run electric current through him and make him dance.
No, yeah, he's good. Yeah, they just put him on, what is it called?
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Exactly. Oh my God,
That could be how Serbians. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
do they have a hard H? So they had reason for concern over those notes because prior to the death of one Tesla, he had actually, right before the war started, actually, he had petitioned this guy, Neville Chamberlain. You may remember the wiener. So Neville Chamberlain's
Prime Minister of the.
infamously walked off the plane with a, I am here on treaty signed by one Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. Why he doesn't have a British accent, I don't know, but we will have
He almost
peace.
sounds like Tony Clifton.
He got off the plane and said, we have achieved peace and on our part. And everyone's like, oh yeah, cool, great. And then like 3 months later, they invaded Poland. And he's like, well, I quit. Because he made his money, or, you know, he made his, not his money, he made his bet he could outmaneuver Hitler and Mussolini politically. But while all this was going on, everyone knew Europe was going to go to war. Tesla said, hey, I've got this thing I think you guys should check out. What is it? It's a it's a deterrent. What kind of deterrent? It's one that'll make no one ever want to go to war ever again. They're like, oh, did you crack the secrets of the atom? Are we going to have like a bomb, a nuclear bomb? He's, no, this is better. This is a concentrated particle beam, and it can shoot 200 miles straight, the curvature of the Earth, before it loses effectiveness. Okay, we're listening. And he goes, I'm just going to need a lot of fucking money. They're like,
that's always a rub, isn't it?
that's the caveat. Well, here's the thing. When Neville Chamberlain was like, no, we don't want that. Or, no, we don't want that. He takes it to the Soviets.
With this big Adam's apple bobbing up and down.
He takes it to the Soviets, and they're like, we've heard of this new book, The New Art of Projecting Concentrated Non-Destructive Energy Through the Natural Media. Very long title.
Yes.
He's like, yeah, I know, but I needed to make sure you understood. Like,
Yeah.
we understand.
And that's just the beginning.
Yeah, that's just a fucking title.
This is about the birth of what you might call directed energy weapons.
It goes on, man. He provided technical data for manufacturing this shit. And, like, it's a very detailed book. And the USSR bought in. They paid him $25K for completion of phase 1.
Oh, dude, he's got other blueprints out there, too. Like, you just check the internet, man. There's people making all kinds of Tesla shit out of their own garage.
It goes even deeper, man. He's like, oh, yeah, well, it's meant to deter war, but, you can make your own Aurora Borealis out of it because it charges the ionosphere. It's great for kids' parties, Yeah, it's just a fucking photon beam firing straight up in the sky. There's a fucking Air Force base, and I forget the name of it, but they actually tried to create this because they heard this fucking story that the Russians had a laser beam, and we can't have a fucking laser beam gap.
No.
So
we can't have any kind of gap.
Can't even have a gap.
Gap even.
God damn it. And so it's like, I think it was under Reagan, 81, that the Scientific Development Initiative, or SD.
Strategic Defense Initiative,
or SDI, for sexual disease infection. A lot of money.
That does account for some of them, yes.
A lot of money got sank into it, but without using that technical data or any manuals that Tesla wrote, then like 5 or 10 years, that project of making a charged particle beam actually they're like, you know what? Shut it fucking down. This is never fucking happening. The amount of money we got to sink into this just to get it to fucking work. They're like, yeah, but just think about how cool it'd be to have it at my kid's birthday party, man.
Yeah. How cool it would be to have a program called Star Wars.
Billy is 4 years old now. He doesn't need a fucking particle charge.
We can have Reagan come out on stage and start going, Star Wars, Star Wars, singing the theme song that doesn't have any words.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, addendum to some of I believe it was the last episode, there was a McDonald's in communist Russia, and the first Ronald McDonald was not played by Fred Willard, but Willard Scott. Big difference. I apologize. Okay, sorry.
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 This gets into this, I don't even want to call it pseudoscience. It's super science, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, Soviet super science.
I mean, just in general, like the computing power improves every 2 weeks or doubles every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's exponential.
Yeah. I mean, at this rate,
technological development in general is considered exponential.
Yeah.
Or it has been since
47.
Yeah.
We kind of go.
Who do you think we have to thank for that? The man we've been talking about today, personally, I think a lot of the shit that we have today, going on today, can be traced right back to him.
That handsome mustachioed man.
Yes.
See, this is just the beginning, because next week we got to get into the fallout of this guy's mere existence on the planet. You're going to see just how much life changed for everyone, including mad scientists.
Science is affected by the zeitgeist of the people in control at the time, specifically the Cold War superpowers. And you'll notice also, I just have to throw this out there, in peacetime, most technology is dictated by pornography. I shit you not. That's a true fact. You can look it up. But that's more, consumer electronics, DVD players, etc.
There is.
Yeah, sure enough. But there was a time not too long ago when global politics played a very big part in how science was dictated. We're going to get into that next week. And if you thought Tesla got fucked, oh boy, join us next week for part 2 of this particular series covering Tesla and the mysteries of psychotronic warfare that we'll be getting into next time.
Woot woot.
Thank you for listening to the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
Thanks, J-Lo, on the wheels of steel. And you'll hear us next week. Pretty please. We love you. See you next time.
Hell yeah.
Hey-oh.